YouTubers, welcome to my office. I don't often get to see my office. It's just that today it's a little bit slow at work. I thought I'd do some sort of sorting through fossils, etc. And I thought I'll do a YouTubey thing. So I have to stay fairly quiet because everyone's going to hear me and going to go, he's a nutter, he's talking to himself in his office again. So anyway, what I'm going to talk to you about today, spending billions. It's an interesting thing. I've been listening to the radio lately, or at least when certain things turn up, you do hear certain things on TV and radio. And when the recent, let's call it the Big Bang Machine, I'm not sure the appropriate name for it, but the Big Bang Machine was made, and came into its the switch on day. Everyone thought the world was going to come to an end or whatever. They had a radio show on our local radio, and various radios. But anyway, this one I was listening to in particular, it had a few characters that came on, and surprise, surprise, there was quite a lot of religious people turning up on this one, and all coming on saying, I don't know why they're doing this, because God created everything, etc, etc, and why are they bothering wasting all this money when it could be spent on better things like hospitals. Now, the fact that it did cost some considerable billions does of course bring it into question. Spending billions on a science project, and then recently we just heard about, only last week we hear about the finding of ice crystals and possibly snow falling on Mars. And once again, I was listening to the radio, and on comes the usual lot. I don't know why they're wasting money on this when they could be giving more electricity to old people. Was one particular one, paying people's electricity bills, which I thought was quite amusing. But again, a project that costs a lot of money. Now, I'm sure there are people out there who think, yes, why are they wasting all this money on doing science projects when they could be like building churches, for instance, or building temples? It got me thinking, look, let's have a look at religious spending, for instance. Just thinking about that alone, you spend on buildings like churches, which, to be honest, don't really have a function. You get married in them, of course. You can pray to God in them, but you can do that at home anyway. It's really a place to meet and sort of pray. That's all I can really think. Now, the reasons for having one of these places, you think they'd use them, these vast buildings, which are really architecturally very good. These vast buildings are built, and billions of pounds, billions of dollars, multi-billion-dollar spending has gone on to making these buildings. And in fact, here in Britain we have churches, and then they build a church hall next to one so that you can have a meeting there. And then they decorate these places with massive, they always have to be architecturally brilliant, they always have to impress, and that is really all they are, buildings to impress, and buildings where people in a community meet up and become indoctrinated into the faith. Think about it, it's the only reason for one. That, and of course somewhere to give your preacher, priest, vicar, whatever, somewhere to work. And of course then they have vicarages and things like that. They spend a lot of money, and used to at least, not so much nowadays because they haven't got so much money. But there we are, vast spending. Saudi Arabia alone, I believe, has spent over $100 billion on mosques outside of Saudi Arabia. Not even in its own country, just to spread the word so its people have somewhere to get together and be indoctrinated. That is the sole purpose of them. Obviously, it's a power thing. If they look impressive, then people say they must be impressive. Think of the thousands, millions of man-hours tied up in building these things. It's vast. In all the various temples, all the various religious houses, vast amounts of man-hours, vast amounts of money. So next time somebody criticises the fact that they've spent, I don't know, £2.5 billion or something, or $4 billion, I can't remember the exact figure, on a machine for testing out the Big Bang Theory. Just think about the way money is wasted by the religious side of things. That's one thing I want to just come up with, and then bear with me and I'll just come up with my next bit. Actually, I've just had another thought about these sort of vast empty spaces that churches seem to love giving, as indeed do mosques. They're providing a space for people to move into. It's like in Australia, for instance, they've not been building mosques, and people from Islam, the Islam faith, have been moving away because there are no mosques. So I can see why they build them. If you build like a giant mosque nearby, people will be attracted to that area. And there's a similarity here with your kitchen rubbish. In your kitchen, you have a bin, or most people do. Now, when the bin's full, you've got two choices. You can either empty the bin, which is probably the best choice really, but you don't always do that, do you? Sometimes you just get a little carrier bag and stick it next to it and fill that. And then of course there can be a satellite of carrier bags like around the mothership, or of course you could just buy a bigger bin, but even then that fills up with rubbish, so eventually you have to empty it. But the space, what happens is shit expands to fill the space provided. So that's basically, I think, what happens when you build too many churches and mosques. Very controversial, I know, but quite amusing to think. There you go. Anyway, peace.